Let's talk about why affairs never work out. I'll admit, there are exceptions to the rule. There are exceptions to the rule in just about every way and everything. Somebody cheated on their partner and they got together with the person and they rode off into the sunset and lived happily ever after. Seemingly, as far as we know, because a lot of people won't be honest. But the norm, what usually happens is relationships that are the result of an affair usually don't work out and are not successful. And we're going to go through some of the reasons as to why that is. Reason number one, once the thrill is gone and you look at each other and you realize that you're just normal, everyday people, there's no more fun to be had. The biggest part that made this so exciting and so romantic was the fact that you guys were sneaking around, having to be deceitful, having to find places to hide and lies to tell. Once you guys look at each other and you realize that you're just boring, everyday people, the thing that made you guys enjoy this affair was the fact that you were lying and hiding and running around and being deceitful. It made you feel mischievous. It woke up that bad side of all of us that we want to awaken, but you guys just did it in a really awful way. And once you guys realize that you get sick, you get smelly, you use the bathroom, you pay bills, you pay taxes, and you're just Jim and Donna, life starts to suck a little bit. Part of the reason you guys had the affair is because you were bored in your day-to-day lives. You needed to spruce things up a bit. Your partner that you slept next to every day was yawn central. And then, now that you have each other and you can do whatever you want, you look at each other and realize that you're both yawn central too, and that life still lifes just as it did before. You will always be paranoid that karma will hit. And if you're with somebody who cheats, it probably will. You're always going to be looking over your shoulder. You're always going to be checking their phone. You're always going to be wondering where they are. They were supposed to have been home an hour ago. But there's the saying, how you catch a man is how you keep him. And if you caught him in a wrong way, that's going to be how you lose them. You will never have any rest, because there ain't no rest for the wicked. Life will always be you looking over your shoulder, wondering if they're going to do to you what they did to their partner. They probably will. Cheaters don't change. Next thing is, cheaters rarely leave their partners for you. They usually stay with their current partner because they say they don't want to break up the family, they don't want to hurt her. They will rarely choose you, and you will have a life of always being the chick on the side. You will always get the Valentine's Day gifts the day after Valentine's Day. You will get the Christmas the day after Christmas, or whenever they come back from celebrating Christmas break from their family. You will never be a main character. You will spend the rest of your life being side character energy, and you will wreck your brain trying to figure out ways to win them over, to get them to treat you as their number one gal, and it's not gonna happen. Now, like I said, there's some exceptions to the rule where the man does leave his wife, or maybe she finds out and she leaves him, rightfully so, as she should. I'm team her all day, every day. Rarely ever leave their partner. And even if they do leave their partner, they will always go back to that partner in some way or another. Hopefully she's smart, she doesn't take his ass back, but they rarely leave. And if they do leave, they're always going to yo-yo back and forth. So you're going to live a life of constantly being second choice, plan B. Or be much like the last point, you will never be a priority. If you ever get sick or something happens to you, like you lose your job or something and you need someone to lean on, and you call old Jimmy thinking he's going to drop everything and be there for you, he's actually not, because he has to pick his kids up from school. He has to have dinner with his wife first. He has to make sure she goes to sleep first. He has to make sure she's doing something to where she's unaware, and he might not be able to get away and be with you right away. So you will be alone, and you'll be very lonely. If you go through some kind of illness and you end up with the hospital, he's not going to drop everything and take care of you. First of all, because he's a bum, and he probably wouldn't take care of his own wife or girlfriend, because men are more likely to divorce their wives if they come down with a serious illness. But that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day, a video that I've actually done already if you want to scroll around and see the videos. Anyway, sorry. You'll never be first place. You will never be a priority. You will never be important. You will never matter as much as their main woman matters to them. Reason affairs don't work is you will always be compared to their main woman, their wife or their girlfriend that they spend a majority of their time with. You will always be compared to them, and you will always be in a competition to prove that you are the better woman, that you should be the woman who wins his heart. You will have no rest. If she cuts her hair in a certain kind of way, then you'll feel compelled to go rush and do your hair in a new way too. You'll start to want to act like her. You'll start to want, I've heard this happen to women before, where their husband had a mistress, and they noticed that this mistress, once they realized what was going on, that this mistress was stalking their social media. This mistress was dressing like them and talking like them and trying to hang out at the same places they hung out as, because you're at your wit's end. You don't know what else to do to make this man come home to you permanently. You do? You try to copy what's working. He's living with his wife. She's his number one. So maybe if I act like her, then I'll be his number one too. Unhinged behavior. Completely unhinged behavior. Okay? And it's never going to be you. And on the rare occasion that he leaves his wife or girlfriend for you, he's only with you because you look like her. And you'll have to spend the rest of your life having to live with that fact. And it's also just creepy and weird. So, no. The next thing is, you've already started off the relationship showing that you don't respect yourself, you're insecure, you're not confident, you have no boundaries, and you'll take whatever you get. That is the message that you're sending to this man. That's why in most all of these situations, it comes full circle. And what they did to their significant other to be with you, they're going to do to you to either stay with their significant other or be with somebody else. But it's going to happen to you. What goes around is always going to come around. And if you're one of those rare cases where maybe he stays with you and he doesn't cheat, it's rare that ever happens. You yourself will drive yourself insane, like I said in one of my prior points, expecting that it's going to happen to you. And honestly, it usually does. Showing this man, hey, I have no self-respect because I'll take another woman's husband or boyfriend. I have no confidence because I'm settling for somebody who's already taken, who obviously doesn't respect me because he's still sleeping with her. I don't care. You can do whatever you want to me, and I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to love you or think I love you, even though it's just desperation and loneliness. I'm still going to take your shit. I'm still going to take your excuses as to why you can't leave her. I'm still going to be plan B. You're never going to be able to take a real vacation with me unless you lie about it. You're never going to be able to post me on social media. You're never going to be able to tell your family about me. So, hey, run over me. I'm a mat. I'm a doormat. I'm a pothole on the ground. You will be used and abused. And sometimes when men think they have balls, they'll remind you, well, how do you think I got you? They'll rub that shit in your face. So you've already from the jump started your relationship off on quicksand, thanks to your extremely low self-esteem and your inability to be willing to be alone until you could attract someone into your life, or whatever you want to call it. This isn't a woo-woo la-la session. Until you're willing to meet someone who just wants you and only you. And this is why I preach the message about not being male-centered, because when you are male-centered, you do things like be with men who are married, who are in committed relationships, who have families that they go home to, because you're just desperate to have somebody, even if it's somebody else's somebody. I used to work at a warehouse. Stay with me here. And to pass the time, I would often put my AirPods in and listen to true crime podcasts. Follow me. I promise I have a point. When you get involved, when you have such low self-esteem, when you're so male-centered and desperate for a relationship, not only will you get into a relationship with somebody who's already in a relationship or married, but it makes you vulnerable because you're desperate. What I've learned from these podcasts, you become so desperate that you put yourself at risk to be, for this man to convince you to harm their wife or girlfriend. Because a lot of these whack job men, they say that women are irrational, but they are in fact the ones who are irrational and emotional. And instead of just, it's still going to hurt, it's still going to cause damage, instead of just saying, you know what, babe, this isn't working. Let's break up. I'm leaving. I want a divorce. Some of these men will go to the extreme end in order to end their relationship. And they'll try to get rid of their main partner, if you know what I mean. And if you are male-centered, if you are desperate to get that man to be with you, you're vulnerable to doing things to try to make that man be with you, such as get rid of their partner or harm them. Convince you to do it all together, or they'll convince you to help them do it. And this is why I hate when I get comments about people saying that they're tired of my content, they're tired of me talking about relationships, they're tired of this decenter men bullshit. But there are people who are getting taken off of this planet because there was a woman who didn't decenter men. So when you're desperate, when you betray yourself, when you're willing to be with someone who's with somebody else, if you get desperate enough, you put yourself in a position to where you harm somebody else and you're locked up. Or you get put in harm's way. Or you're out here in these streets looking like a complete dumbass trying to fight somebody who he goes home to every day, who he's prioritized, even though he's a loser. Let's not get off track here. He's still a loser. But in the grand scheme of things, that's his main person. So this is also why getting into a relationship based on an affair is dangerous, because men will have you out here in these streets doing some fucked up shit. And I don't remember who I heard it from or where I heard it from. I think it was on TV or something. Don't ask me, I don't remember. But there was a woman who worked in a prison, and she said most of the women in that prison are there because of a man. And as a woman who, not to that extreme, but as a woman who's done some stupid shit over a man, I believe it 100%. And it's just so unfortunate. So this is why I'm so passionate about helping us decenter men. Because while I didn't go to that end of the spectrum, I've seen it happen in other people's situations when you go off the deep end. You will always be lonely. You will always be lonely. You will always be longing. You will always be daydreaming. You will always be, one of the things I like to say, you'll always be wandering the earth like a lonely ghost, searching for, when is John coming back to me? When is he coming? He's at home with his wife, girl. He ain't worried about you. Okay? But you will always be lonely. You'll be at Christmas stalking his social media or his wife or his girlfriend's social media trying to see what they're up to. He ain't with you. So you're always going to be sitting twiddling your thumbs, waiting for him to call you, daydreaming about the day that he whisks you up in his arms and says, I choose you, babe. You know. And it's not going to happen. And you're going to be sad. And every time he does come by your house and he has to leave before the sun rises or whatever the case may be, that moment is going to get you amped up until the next moment. And until then, you'll be lonely and sad again. So you will never be fulfilled. You will always be miserable and sad, putting your life on pause until the next moment where he can come back and feed you bullshit for a couple more hours. If you have children and they find out what's going on, that's humiliating. Especially if you live in a small town and word travels around. There's a woman on TikTok who shared the story of how her mom rode into the sunset and her relationship was as a result of an affair. And people are clowning her. They're like, sweets, that ain't something to brag about. That is not good, okay? But if you have children, you risk embarrassing them. You risk giving them a negative reputation that precedes them. Let's say you are in a relationship and you are cheating to be with someone, your children could resent you for tearing up the family. And they could resent you to a point where they just decide to no longer talk to you or be around you ever again because they see you as the person who destroyed the family. And rightfully so. I totally understand that because that is something that is extremely dishonorable. You know, I wasn't always this way, but there was a point in my life when I woke up and I changed and raised my standards because I thought, because kids don't do what we tell them, they often replicate what they see. So whenever I'm dating or talking to someone, I'll ask myself, would I want my daughter to repeat this? Would I want my son to do this or to accept this? No. So it's about being a role model, right? It's about, you're an adult and you can do what you want, but you're accountable to your kids because they're looking at you as a role model. They're looking at you for guidance. And when you let them down in such drastic ways, they might tolerate it when they're kids because at a certain age they might not understand, or because they have to depend on you financially. But once they grow up and they learn, you would be lucky if your kids continue to have a relationship with you when you do things like that. So you risk losing your family over a man of all things. You also risk losing your friends. Unless you guys are immature minded, and they're also involved in drama, and you guys get together like hens in a hen house and you cluck about all the drama that you guys are caught up in, then they might not have any standards, and they'll cheer on your shenanigans. But if you have real friends who are grown, they ain't gonna have time for that shit. And they're gonna be like, okay, well, if you can go around lying and being deceitful in this situation, who's to say you're not gonna lie to me? Who's to say you're not gonna turn around and do something deceitful to me? Who's to say you're not gonna try to come after my man? Adults will not associate with cheaters. If I'm getting to know a man and he tells me my mom was a cheater, my dad was a cheater, my friend was a cheater, say no more. You ain't got to worry about me no more, okay? Absolutely not. That's what mature people don't put up with. They don't do that shit, and they don't associate with people who do that shit. Life could plummet, could cease to exist again over a fucking man in your state. Next thing is, and you have to check the laws in your state, but if you get a pretty good lawyer, I'm pretty sure you could be sued as the mistress. There are some states, some cities, some lawyers who could figure out a way to drag you through the legal system. So it could wind up costing you money. You could possibly lose your job because you'll have to take time off work to keep going back and forth to court, to losing money to pay a lawyer, child support, and let's say you guys end up getting married. If he owes child support, I'm not sure specifically how this works, but I'm pretty sure, maybe, I don't know what the laws are on this, they could end up taking that money from you. Long run, in closing, you could end up breaking the law. You could end up losing your job, losing your children, losing your friends. If you mess with the wrong one, losing your life. Losing, 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 losing. There are no wins in these particular situations. So if you are in the midst of one of these situations now, you can change. You can stop. You can do the work, get into therapy, and turn your life around and start to do what's right. But if you continue, you are willingly going down a slippery slope that doesn't end in anything positive for anyone involved. I'm giving you the information. When you know better, you do better. The choice is yours. But only one of those choices is going to lead to you better in your life and being a better person. The other choice, the other option, staying and to continue doing what you're doing, leads to confusion, destruction, and loss. But again, the choice is yours. I hope you make the right one.